Welcome to our Climate Wisdom live stream from COP30 Climate Change Conference in Belém, Brazil. We bring together delegates from the area of civil society, policy making, science and faith to care, to share and to inspire. My name is Sonja Ohlsson from the Brahma Kumaris Environment Initiative, and I will be your moderator here tonight. The theme we have tonight is the future we build together. And it's interesting because yesterday in the climate change conference, there was 80 countries that went together and demanded a clear roadmap to phase out fossil fuels. And that was a very welcome intervention as the negotiations has been stuck for a while. And I was thinking, a society and a future without fossil fuels, how does it really look like? I'm inviting you as the audience, our speakers, to think about it. How does a future without fossil fuels look like for you? So it goes very well with the theme we have tonight about the future. So I say welcome to our two distinguished guests here tonight. Vanessa Nakate, you are UNICEF ambassador and also from Project Dandelion. And Sister Jayanti, our additional administrative head from the Brahma Kumaris. Most welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We'll have an interesting session about the future. But Vanessa, I'll give you a proper introduction. You are an environmentalist and you work now as a strategist for Global South narrative and policy for Project Dandelion, and you're also UNICEF Goodwill Ambassador. And you're a member of the board of Malala Funds and Global Witness. It's a lot of activity for your young age, but you were inspired by Greta Thunberg and her school strikes in Sweden. And you started your own school strikes back in 2019 in Uganda. And as I'm Swedish, we have followed the life of Greta Thunberg very closely. And she is, the Sweden as a nation is very proud. So it would be interesting to hear your story from the very beginning. You want to share that with us?
Yeah, thank you so much. I'm not from Sweden, but I'm also very proud of Greta. I think she's incredible.
Yeah.
She has always been incredible. And she inspired me in my work to start my activism in 2019. However, my involvement in climate was really in 2018. So towards the end of 2018, I started to do some personal research about the challenges that people in my country, Uganda, were facing. And I got to learn that climate change was one of them. And I learned how people were already being impacted by drought and floods in some parts of the country. And I wanted to do something about it. And I can say that in that moment, that desire to want to do something about it aligned with the Fridays for Future climate strikes that Greta had started towards the end of 2018. So I decided to join as well. It wasn't very easy for me. I got to learn about the climate strikes in 2018, but I did my very first climate strike in 2019. It was the first week of January, because I was very scared to go to the streets, of course, and to face the public with placards. But almost 7 years later, I'm glad that I did.
You went alone?
The very first strike, I went with my siblings and my cousins. They were really young at that time, and we all were. And it was an interesting strike. We were very nervous. I was very nervous, but it was good to have the support of family there. But then for some of the following strikes, it would be just me, or sometimes a friend would join. Yeah.
And you had media attention, or how did it grow in Uganda after that?
At the beginning, there wasn't a lot of media attention. What I really used at that time was social media. So every climate strike that I would do, I would share it on Twitter. At that time, it was called Twitter. And then one time Greta retweeted one of my posts, and I was really happy because the post reached so many people, because I went from, you know, having maybe 10 likes, 20 likes on a post to having 1,000 likes on a post because Greta had retweeted. So social media really boosted my work and also introduced me to a larger audience. And then as more people got to see my work on social media, then also the media platforms started to come as well for interviews to amplify my work.
And have you been demonstrating with Greta internationally?
Well, I'm in Uganda, Greta is in Sweden, but there have been moments in the past 6 years where we found ourselves in the same place, and I've had the opportunity to do the strikes alongside her, but there haven't been many.
No.
But yeah.
Actually, Fridays for Future inspired us internally in the Brahma Kumaris to create Yogis for Future.
Oh.
Yeah, so we have now a meditation platform to provide well-being and peace and calm. So we call it Yogis for Future.
I do think the aspect of, you know, well-being and calmness is really important in the climate fight, because it is not as easy as, you know, it may look on the outside, especially for young people. It's a tough experience. I've had my own experiences of fatigue and burnout and, you know, feeling frustrated by the inaction from our leaders. So it's really good that, you know, you were inspired as well by, you know, the Fridays for Future to create a space for well-being and, you know, mental health, because so many people are, you know, have been frustrated in a way in their activism.
So, Sister Jayanti, you've been representing the Brahma Kumaris at the UN since the 80s. Over 40 years of UN work related to women and peace and environment. And you've been the head of our Brahma Kumaris delegation to the climate change conferences in 2009. And you're a spiritual teacher and faith leader for over 60 years with the Brahma Kumaris. So what are your thoughts when you hear Vanessa's story, when you hear the youth raising their voices at COP or in other platforms?
I was very, very inspired and touched by Greta when I heard about what she had done. And when I was reading about you and hearing you now, it feels very, very powerful. And I'm just thinking that when I was 19, I was also going through a spiritual awakening and decided that this is to be my life. And hearing you talk about the frustrations that sometimes happen and the burnout, I was lucky that there was frustration at what was going on in the world already by then, because this was at the end of the 60s. And so the world was moving from one era in which it felt as if the 50s and 60s were a time after the wars when there was peace. And then by the end of the 60s, 70s and 80s were a different type of experience. So it was a transition time for me personally. So 19, 20 seems to be an age when you look at the world and you ask, well, where do I want to go? What do I want to do? So hearing your story reminded me of my own journey. But what I did at that time, of course, was to start practicing meditation through my own awakening. And it's been a very beautiful journey, ups and downs. It hasn't always been smooth. But one thing that hasn't happened is burnout. And I know that this is because whatever it is that you do, once you're a meditator, you're energizing yourself each morning, so that then that energy from above keeps you going through the day. So yes, there have been early days, especially a lot of rejection from people, because meditation was thought to be, you know, for hippies. It wasn't thought to be something for people who were in mainstream. But it was okay because I knew what I was doing. So I didn't feel that there was any problem there. I more or less expected that we're in a minority, and so the majority is always going to be thinking differently. But the beautiful thing today is that meditation is mainstream. And so people today, whether they meditate or not, they've heard about it. And they acknowledge that, yes, it is beneficial. But especially then with climate change and so on, I know that it was meditation that helped me come to terms with how science is saying very clearly what's going on in the world, and yet governments are ignoring it or taking only bits from whatever it is they choose to take. They're really not taking on the whole subject in a wholehearted way, and I see that that still continues today.
Thank you. Very interesting to have two generations to meet, two activists in their own kind. And as the theme is the future today, Vanessa, when you think of the future, do you sometimes feel afraid or anxious? And if yes, what do you do with it?
Sometimes I feel worried, not just for myself, but for people who are really having a really hard and difficult present, especially communities that are already being impacted by climate change. I think that is really where my biggest worry and fear is for those communities, because with every year that passes without action, unfortunately, it only gets worse. And some of those communities that are visited, like, in the Horn of Africa, in Turkana, where there's this horrible drought that, had left so many children suffering from malnutrition because there's no access to food, and also water scarcity was prevalent in the region. And then when you think about if there is no action, what is going to happen to these people in the next 5 years and the next 10 years? So yes, there is worry, but not really for myself, but more from the people that are directly being impacted right now.
So this worry, does it make you passive or apathy, or does it make you more active, or how does the worry affect you?
It depends. Sometimes the worry creates, a rage in my heart, and that place of feeling really frustrated that it is obvious that climate change is affecting people, and yet leaders are being slow to take action. And then that rage, I would say, it's like a spark that transforms into action, that transforms into activism, showing up on the streets for protests, or leading a grassroots projects in your community. So for me, that's what happens sometimes when I think about the future. Then I want to do something to try and make it better. Yeah.
Thank you. Because nowadays, as it looks like, we're heading for 2.5 degrees global warming, isn't it? Close to hothouse Earth. But Sister Jayanti, you've been meditating for nearly 60 years now, and I wonder, with all this amount of meditation, do you also sometimes feel afraid or anxious thinking about the future? And if yes, what do you do? If no, how did you reach there?
A little bit like Vanessa, I'm not so fearful about myself in a sense, because I know that the soul is eternal, it's not going to die. I know that the parent above, the supreme, is again eternal, so it's an eternal relationship I have. If I didn't have spiritual understanding, I would be very, very scared with all the information that's now being shared with the world. It still isn't something that people out there have actually comprehended properly, I think. They just haven't taken on board the fact that we're so close to the edge. And so a little bit of my fear is that people who haven't understood, they've been exposed to the information, but they haven't yet understood how are they going to manage. Because without spirituality, I think it's going to be a very difficult time to take care of the self, but also to be available to help others in need. So that's my worry. How are other people going to manage if they don't have any understanding of spirituality? And so this is probably what drives me at the moment, because my interest is not just climate change. That's one major interest, but my interest really is, I know that there are difficult times ahead, and I know that meditation can give you that inner state of stability and resilience that can carry you through all of that. And so that's my greater interest, because in a way, we've been hearing these things from scientists since 2009, since I've been involved. But governments just aren't ready to listen. So, as you said, the temperature is now being forecast at 2 point something. Even today, never mind what's the next 10 years scenario, but even today, when I see the suffering of people in India, because that I've been exposed to more perhaps than anywhere else, you see the floods and the damage that this causes, whether in terms of human lives, whether in terms of property and so on, or whether you see what drought does. The earth cracks up. It's no longer earth anymore, it's hard rock. So how are people going to manage? How are they going to survive? And so, yes, on the physical level, let me do what I can to support renewable energies and other things. But essentially, I know that until consciousness changes and people understand themselves deeply as souls and experience a loving relationship with the divine, they're going to face a very hard time.
It's a little bit what you said also, worry about others. But I wonder, Sister Jayanti, no fear about the self at all?
Because of the practice of meditation, there's, of course, awareness of everything that's going on here, and probably a lot more information than most people out on the street. But yet I know that the earth goes through changes, it goes through transitions, and after the night there will be the day. And so I'm convinced that whatever happens now in the immediate future, what goes beyond is actually a transition, a transformation. Sometimes humanity needs to come to the edge before people wake up and realize. And I think that the scenes of the situation with natural disasters is very quickly pushing us to the edge where we have to then change, where we know that we've done so much aggression against nature. Nature is now striking back. Because of what we have done, we are seeing the return of what our input of violence and aggression has been. And so, yes, I know that difficult times are coming, but I hope to be able to help others. But for myself, there isn't, who knows, when you're facing death, maybe I will be scared.
Yeah.
But at this moment, looking into the future, I feel that the practice of being the soul and that awareness of the eternity of the soul is what keeps me going.
Amazing, isn't it?
It is.
Yeah. And that actually leads me to the next question to you, because you talked about people carry on business as usual and not waking up to the fact that it is so serious, the climate change. So Vanessa, here in our live stream last year, we reached hundreds of thousands of viewers to this Climate Wisdom Studio. But most listeners are not actively involved in climate action, but they are busy making daily life work and function. Yeah. So what advice do you have for them on building a future that they can sort of prosper in or survive in or live in?
That is really totally understandable, because even when I started my activism, we had a lot of people coming to say, but why are you talking about climate change when you could talk about poverty or you could talk about health, because these are immediate needs of people in our community, and I really understood where they were speaking from, and that really pushed me to try and understand how climate change connects to food, how it connects to water, how it connects to health, how it connects to poverty. And I really understood that climate change in itself is more than statistics. It's it's more than data points. It's more than greenhouse gas emissions. It's really about people. And what does it impact? It impacts people's access to food, people's access to water. It's destroying, health infrastructure. So that really helped me talk to people in that understanding of fight for climate justice. Is a fight for poverty eradication. It's a fight to achieve zero hunger. It's a fight to increase water access, because climate change has this multiplier effect, and it makes problems much worse. It increases inequalities.
But there are so many people who are not engaged in anything of this.
No, I completely understand, because there was a time when I was also not engaged, and I didn't know much, but then there is always a moment to start.
There's always a moment to start.
There is always a moment to start, and when you realize that you can be a part of something, then there is always, the door is always open in the climate movement. You don't have to come in as an activist. You can come in as a teacher. You can come in as a caretaker. There's so many ways that people are coming in now. Lawyers, journalists. You're doing your role as well. I just did my makeup, and then moderating this conversation. So people are coming at it in really different ways without having to go on the streets. So it's really finding what you can do, even in your busy life as a person, because I do understand people are busy and people have priorities, but there is a way to include climate work as part of your priorities.
And you start from what you start with?
It really depends. Now, if you want to be an activist, of course, there are a number of local groups that you can join. You don't have to start alone, because it can be quite hard to start alone. So it's always easier to find people who are already involved in your local area or via social media, and then see how to engage and connect with them. And of course, now because of social media, it is much easier to talk about things. Everyone is talking on Twitter, which is now X, Instagram, TikTok. There are really a lot of avenues to be a part of the movement. Yeah.
So as we are coming close to our conversation, I just like to ask you to give a final wish for the future, because the title is the future. So what's your final wish for the earth, for the future?
Wow. As I was sitting here with a sister, I was really thinking about how a time is going to come when there is a younger person seated in my place, and I'll be seated in your place as well. And, I'll be talking about, 40 years, 50 years of work. And really my hope for that future is that the person who will be sitting in my place really sees that we did the best that we could to create a better future for them.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And your wish?
My wish is that people should really be able to find the peace that they're looking for, and it can happen through maybe just the quest for that through awareness, but sometimes it may happen through seeing the state of the world. And so I hope that whether it's the external situation or just the internal passion, but I hope that people find the peace that they want.
Thank you very much. Beautiful wishes for future. Shall we conclude with a meditation, continuing the good wishes for the future? May I ask you to guide a final meditation for a few minutes?
Sure.
Yeah. We just sit here quietly. Yeah.
I invite you to join me in the thoughts that I share, just sitting quietly, letting the body be still but balanced. I visualize the inner being, the being that I am. Within this very precious chariot, this body is the jewel that shines in the center of the forehead. I come to this focus and awareness, knowing that I am the eternal soul. I have all treasures within myself, the treasures of peace, of love, of truth. But for a long time, I cut myself off from my own spiritual identity. And so now I come back to this awareness of the soul that shines in the center of the forehead. And in this way, because I can touch the treasures within myself, those treasures reach out and touch the whole of humanity. I hold this sacred moment of peace within and peace outside on every level, peace between humans, the animal kingdom, and the plant kingdom. Om Shanti.
Thank you so much, very beautiful. And thank you both of you for a beautiful conversation. Really lovely. And thanks to all our listeners online to be with us. And special thanks to all the volunteers working behind the scene to make this Climate Wisdom Studio possible. So they're coming to the end of the part 1 of the future we build together. And please stay with us. We have a few minutes break. We'll play a film from Project Dandelion in the break. And then we start part 2 in a few minutes. So thank you very much from Climate Wisdom Studio. You can find more information on our webpage, echo.brahmakumaris.org. And thank you and good evening from the edge of the Amazons in Brazil.
Our climate is in crisis.
I believe we can solve it.
I'm clear-eyed about the challenges, and I choose hope.
I will be part of the solution.
I will share my ideas.
Above all, I will act.
I am a dandelion.
And like a dandelion, I am resilient.
I am relentless.
I will find any opening
In every path,
To make more dandelions.
Together, we will build a future
where everyone is safe.
From a changing climate.
I am a dandelion.
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 I'm a dandelion. Are you?